Dear Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of House 4517. Before I begin, I have some very special thank yous. I want to thank the gentleman from Clinton who worked tirelessly and thoughtfully on providing an abundance of opportunities for people to weigh in, share their views, their thoughts, and their ideas. He played an important role in getting this bill to where we are today, so I thank him. I want to thank the gentleman from Jamaica Plain. I want to thank him and his staff. His commitment to public safety is imminent in the work that he and his staff have done so well. To all of my colleagues, I want to assure the Commonwealth how dedicated and committed each of you are to working together to craft good public policy that strengthens our communities. While some of you know that working on this bill has been a bit of a bumpy ride for me starting in November, I want you, my colleagues, to know that working on this bill has been a highlight of my service here because it's given me the chance to have so many conversations with so many of you. I'm in awe and I am inspired by the commitment every one of you brings to this job every day with the sole purpose of making our community stronger. I want to say thank you to the gentleman from Salem. I can't begin to thank you for all of your incredible support starting last November. Your concern for my well-being and your guidance was assuring and grounding at a vulnerable time. Your professional experience and the time that you've invested in this bill, working with your colleagues and law enforcement, has made this a better bill. I want to thank the gentleman from Natick, whose long and deep, steadfast commitment and attention to common sense gun laws has helped make Massachusetts a safer place. To the gentleman from North Reading, I want to thank you for always having open doors and for the ongoing questions and input, your concerns and your ideas that you brought to this process. Thank you for all of the time, your in-depth knowledge, the deep responsibility you clearly shoulder for the public safety of all of us in Massachusetts and your commitment to the Constitution. It's evident in your leadership and in your work. We could not have done any of this without the incredible staff work of my legislative director, Akriti Bombi, and the Chief of Staff of Public Safety and Homeland Security, Meg Kilcoyne. The hours and the competency that both of these women have given to the Commonwealth working on this bill has been invaluable. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I also want to acknowledge how lucky we are to have the talent and the professionalism of your staff and House Counsel. I don't think many of us can truly appreciate how well our communities are better served by their work that is based on a deep intellectual appreciation of the Mass General laws, the legislative process, and public service. Not to mention the countless hours, late evenings, and weekends they have put in to helping us get here today. Mr. Speaker, thank you for your commitment to public safety. You have modeled for the nation what it means to care deeply about public safety while respecting the Constitution. Massachusetts continues to lead the way in common sense gun laws. Your leadership in 2014 was a call to action in the wake of your grief, Mr. Speaker, where you joined parents of Sandy Hook Elementary School and parents around the nation. You boldly forged a path that showed us grieving alone will not make children safer. Mr. Speaker, I serve in deep gratitude with you for your courage and your call to action. While Congress did nothing, you began the important work of crafting legislation that would save lives. It is not a coincidence that Massachusetts has the lowest gun fatalities in the nation. It's the result of leadership and common sense legislation. I will never forget that day that I drove home from UMass Amherst after my freshman orientation 6 years ago. The day that 28 lives, children and teachers were ripped from their families will forever be seared into my heart. I was driving home from a weekend filled with promise and hope. I just finished our orientation and I had the chance to meet and bond with many of my classmates. I had my first conversations with many people on your leadership team, where I learned that the gentleman from Quincy was really just a gentle giant, and I learned that the gentleman from North Reading was thoughtful and kind. As I was driving what was a very familiar drive home, as I had graduated from UMass Amherst, I received a call from one of my newest friends and colleagues, the gentlewoman from Eastham. She had just heard about the unthinkable and horrific news of the massacre that took place in Newtown, Connecticut. We stayed on the phone the whole ride home as new colleagues and most importantly as mothers who couldn't begin to process the pain and agony of mothers and fathers whose worst nightmares of having their children ripped from them, leaving them dead at the hands of a mass shooting. Today, we have the opportunity to once again enact common sense gun ownership laws. Today, we have the choice to vote on separating guns from owners who their loved ones and those who lived with them believe are at risk of causing bodily harm to themselves or to others. Today, we have the choice to empower people who know their family best and give them the tools to present evidence to a judge and make the case that they believe their loved ones who they live with are going to kill themselves or they're going to hurt others. Today we have the opportunity to acknowledge that there are moments in people's lives when they are living in their darkest times and should not have access to their guns. Support for this bill has been widespread. The public overwhelmingly supports this. Law enforcement throughout the state has overwhelmingly embraced this. From the day that I filed this bill to where we stand today, they continue to cheer us on. We know that ERPOs, or red flags, as they're often referred to, can save lives. A comprehensive study that took place in 2017 looking at the Connecticut ERPO law shows that at least 72 suicides were averted. And those lives were saved because there was an ERPO law in place. And while it's true we can't prevent someone from attempting suicide, we do know that the likelihood of succeeding at suicide with a gun increases by 90%. An ERPO creates a pause, a space, when it's successfully used. We know that when a suicide has been averted, many people are able to successfully access the help and support they need and often want. We also know there's another study that took place from 2009 to 2016, and it studied all of the mass shootings that took place during that time period. And what it revealed was that at least 42% of the incidents, there is documentation that the attacker exhibited dangerous warning signs before the shooting. Red flag laws can save lives by allowing family members and those who live with them and law enforcement to act before warning signs escalate into tragedies. Mr. Speaker, after every mass shooting, I lie awake at night. I toss and I turn and I weep, and I think about the grief of parents and loved ones who are experiencing this loss. People who present a danger to themselves or who want to hurt others with a gun should be separated from their guns, at least temporarily. This bill provides due process that some can reasonably argue is absent from the current laws, which again is, I think, why we have support from law enforcement, both from the Mass Major City Chiefs and the Mass Chiefs of Police Association. At night, when I kiss my children and I tuck them into bed, and I think about all of their worries and angst, and I have the conversations with my children who are at the tender ages of 7 and 9, and they ask me about what it means for their classmates who won't fit into the bathrooms when they have just done another assimilated, We have children who are trying to learn how to keep themselves safe. We have children who are trying to figure out how to stay alive when a shooter comes into the classroom. And then they're coming home at 7 years old and crying and saying, "Mom, the boys won't fit in the bathroom. It's not fair if they get shot." This does not have to be normal. Today we have the opportunity to remove guns from people who want to hurt themselves or who want to hurt others. I have letters here from some first graders who write to me, "Please keep doing your job and work hard at it. Please take guns away from people who want to hurt people. I want to live." We want our children to come home from elementary school. We want our children to come home from high school. We want them to come home from a university. We as adults want to come home from a concert alive. We want to come home from a nightclub alive. We want to come home from a cafe alive. There are some who will always say, no, never, we can't, we shouldn't. There's never a good reason to separate someone from their guns. Today, we continue to be the state that models for the nation. There are moments in people's lives where they do need to be separated from their guns and their ammunition, and they're allowed to present their case before a judge, make that case. If a judge believes, based upon the evidence, that there is good reason to believe someone is going to kill themselves or hurt themselves, they can remove and they can separate. I want to thank particularly the survivors of gun violence. There are moms and dads and individuals throughout our state, throughout this country, who've been begging our nation to hear their pleas, who have been grieving. And to those of you today, I want to say, your leaders have been listening to you, and they have been taking action. In 2014, under Speaker DeLeo's leadership, we took bold actions, and again, today we stand here with a state that has the lowest gun fatalities in the nation. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity and the privilege to serve my community and to serve the people of the Commonwealth. To my colleagues, I continue to be inspired and in debt to how much you deeply care. Even when we disagree, your willingness and your passion to want to figure out how to get to the best possible place that keeps all of us safe and healthy. I thank you.